Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm Sylvester the Cat here. We are back for some more yet again for the likes of the Bugsy Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. In this case, Mario Kart 8 / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Wii U / Nintendo Switch. So, previously in the previous weekend is that we have managed to able to go through the flawless run-through while going through buddy forms of the Banana Cup. So, yeah, today for this episode, especially noticeable and during tomorrow's video as well, we're about to be taking on the forms of both Leaf Cup and Lightning Cup. So to begin with, we're about to begin with, of course, the Leaf Cup. So even then, yeah, there's not much else I can say about it. So even then, we'll just have to jump right in. And for those of you who do not know already, it's the fact that if you're probably wondering, my voice has actually got a little bit more off today. This is probably because, once again, ever since during the forms of February, I'm actually slightly in the ill statement by simply able to actually get ourselves our illness coldness. So this means, like, you know, runny nose, as well as my sore throat and everything like that. But hopefully during that time until tomorrow's video, or especially noticeable on next weekend or something, then we should able to actually make ourselves a little bit more better than before. So even then, yeah, for the sake of this, the cup decision characters-wise, I think we should probably select Tanuki Mario to start off with. And then, as far as the forms of the next cup as far as concerned, well, we might as well have to find things out until whenever we get to tomorrow's video, for surely, Sylvester, for surely. So, as far as the card combination goes, let's go for Blue Falcon, and as well as the, let's just go for the normal tires, and as for the glider, we'll go for, let's just say, Parafoil. So even then, we just want to point things out. So even then, let's get to the forms of the Leaf Cup. So even then, yeah, we're now on to the second half of the actual Grand Prix in Mario Kart 8 / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So even then, chances are there's going to be one of those cases about that scenarios and all that stuff. So, alright, so to begin with the actual Leaf Cup to begin with, we have the first track in that cup. We have the returning track from Mario Kart DS, which is none other than Wario Stadium, which I think that was originally from the Special Cup on the first track, which appears to be on the exact same, track order as the forms of how it does in the original Mario Kart DS track. So even then, the obvious noticeable difference is of course the obviously the visuals first of all, and second is the fact that you notice on the original Mario Kart DS track of this particular stage, or that track I should say, that it usually takes place in the stadium of course, but the actual you know, between day and nighttime cycle, it was actually like nighttime. Whereas in this version, it was now in daytime. So even then, though, it makes it a little bit more of a complete opposite whenever we get to, you know, Sherbet Land, which appears to be the next track after this, though. But either way, and obviously the noticeable difference between the original counterparts of Wario Stadium compared to this is, of course, the forms of the anti-gravity section. So I'm guessing they might actually replace the actual curvy parts from the likes of the original counterpart, and then they just managed able to replace it by the anti-gravity section, because, you know, that's how this game functions actually worked out to be. So even then, everything else to be expected. So yeah, because if you could tell with the actual commentary for the sake of beings about the fact that this is going to be a little bit awkward for this point today, because then again, as I mentioned this for about a few seconds ago, I'm actually felt a little bit rough around the edges when it comes to cold and everything like that. But then again, whenever we you know, I think that you, Sonic, are currently doing Wario World recently. That you're perfectly fine and all that stuff. Yeah, I know that, Sylvester. It's just that, as far as this weather time goes, especially noticeable since the very beginning of the year, especially noticeable with, at the very end of the year, I should say, I think this is going to be one of those cases about the fact that we're going to easily get common with all these cold illness and stuff like that. Well, luckily though, we didn't overly feel sick, but it's just the actual cold flu is the only issue about it. But either way, aside from everything else for today's day is of course the forms of the 2nd of November today in 2019. So we're now on the 11th month of 2019. So naturally speaking, we're actually getting pretty close towards the end of 2019 before we move on to the next new year, which is 2020. So even then, yeah, there's not much else I can say, because even then, well, apart from those news and announcements and all that stuff, we'll start with the most important one, which is, of course, we did manage to able to play for a bit on Luigi's Mansion 3, and surprisingly, I actually do really enjoyed it so far. Even though it might take a while to get used to with the actual controls and all that stuff, because the only controlling methods we're going to be using on that game, which is of course the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. So, because I looked upon the forms of what the GameCube controller might actually work out in that game, but unfortunately though, they're missing some features, like specifically, I would say something more related to likely a burst or something. Maybe I'll get a little bit of a convincing for myself, you see that right there. And also another thing is the fact that we did manage to be able to play that game on our own time, and at the point right now, we actually got ourselves quite a few gems and all that stuff, because much like the forms of how it does on Luigi's Mansion 2 for the 3DS, gems makes its return and all that stuff, especially noticeable with like, well, I'm sorry for the actual spoiler territory for this point, because even then we've already just got started with the actual game so far in our own time, and we do enjoy it though, but hopefully we'll get back into that at some point after we take a break on, well, eventually whenever we decide to able to hopefully finish up with the actual Let's Play of Super Mario Odyssey, as well as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and all that stuff. So even then though, hopefully we can able to actually complete those games during time for the actual Let's Play department, before when it gets to like at the very end of the year. So even then, that makes it a little bit obvious answer for that specific matter, so... Yeah, anyway though, so as you can see on this track right here, we are now on the returning track from the likes of Mario Kart Double Dash, which appears to be Sherbet Land, which I will say, I actually really kind of like this version a bit more than the forms of how it does it on Double Dash in variation. I don't know why it is. It's probably because of the actual presentation of this specific track like this. In fact, the only major differences between the forms of, or actually multitude of differences than the likes of the original version of this course, than the likes of how it does it in this version, as you can tell, is that obviously we can now drive underwater, first of all, and second of all is the fact that, do you remember in Double Dash in the during the forms of the Sherbet Land? And by the way, the actual Sherbet Land track was originally from, you know, in Double Dash, and I think it's going to take place in the Star Cup on the first track, so even then, that way it can make it a little bit of an answer for that specific matter, so... And also, as you can tell, that do you remember any forms of in the original version of this course on Mario Kart Double Dash, that normally that particular track usually takes place in daytime? Now this time around though, it's going to take place in nighttime, which I think is pretty cool looking, because even then, since that Christmas is almost going to be getting closer and all that stuff, it will be a perfect opportunity we can able to actually just to play that particular track in online or something like that, but hey, who knows that. So anyway, yeah, another new set of informations we'd like to talk about this specific stuff is that, yes, Mario Kart Tour now finally gives us in the actual update, specifically when it gets to December this year, which apparently we're going to be having ourselves the beta multiplayer mode, which is about time, but unfortunately though, there's one little downside to this, and that is of course using the gold pass to able to actually play multiplayer experience, which I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous at this point right now. Yeah, especially noticeable because of how the fact that they use Gold Pass for basically for almost everything as accessibility, like 200cc and multiple prices and all that stuff, but it's kind of a shame that the multiplayer closed, well, in this case, the multiplayer beta mode, as far as I'm aware, is only accessible for the actual Gold Pass feature, so kinda sucks though, but even then, we'll, save that for mentioning about that whenever we get close towards the end of this though, so... Anyway, so the next track, as you can see on screen, we are driving back to the forms of the returning track from the Mario Kart 7 game, which apparently we are now going to be driving through, well in this case, we're now going to be taking part into Melody Motorway, which is the returning track from Mario Kart 7. And honestly, the actual track itself plays very much identical to the forms of how it does it in the original Mario Kart 7 track like this. I mean, the obviously noticeable difference is, of course, the actual visuals looks absolutely gorgeous, especially this is on, you know, 1080p and all that stuff, plus with the forms of, like, the color palette is actually way more pop-up than in forms of how it does in the original Mario Kart 7 counterpart. And the reason why we got to stop right there for the actual second place position, because if you could tell, Blue Spiny Shell is about to be approaching. So even then, we always attempt to do that though, ever since in Mario Kart DS or something like that. Mind you, in the old school games though, we didn't necessarily do that though, because it's all depending on luck, especially noticeable in Mario Kart Wii. But unlike in the forms of DS as well as 7 and even Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, and even especially noticeable with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we can at least manage to able to do that strategy to begin with. So that way you could able to actually just to get ourselves a nice flawless you know, run through of that particular course of the track. So, and obviously that's going to take place in, well, for this particular track is originally from, as we mentioned this before, Mario Kart 7, but it usually takes place on the third track in the Flower Cup. So, yeah, because ever since during the forms about a year ago, that's Mario and Sonic did recently finish up with, you know, the Mario Kart 7 redo Let's Play. So if you want to check that out, you might can, but either way though, it's just the amount of views is actually getting pretty low at the moment. But either way though, we have to leave things up for this point, I'm afraid. So even then, let's go ahead and take that little glider, and oh crap, looks like we're gonna get owned by the blue shell once again. So, oh, we can able to actually use the banana in the first place, so that way we can able to defend ourselves here. Now, apparently, though, is the fact that I don't suppose I've ever told you guys about this, is the fact that you notice that recently, that definitely has recently finished up with, you know, the Pac-Man World Let's Play. Apparently, though, he does have some technical difficulties with it, such as, like, adding the actual commentary for the sake of the actual video. And as a result of this kind of stuff, no matter what, though, that's the perfect example about the fact that he did manage to upload the final part of Pac-Man World Let's Play from just about during the same day as Halloween Day. That's probably because of how the fact that he does have some technical difficulties with it. So, but thankfully though, he did fix that out, so hopefully we're not going to let that happen again for the sake of this video, especially noticeable during the forms of tomorrow's video as well. So anyways though, here we go with the final track in the Leaf Cup, and it's the returning track from Mario Kart 64, originally as in the forms of the second track in the Special Cup, which is none other than Yoshi Valley itself. Well, in terms of the Yoshi Valley track, as you like to say it for this point, right, Sylvester? Oh yeah, I probably should explain that until just about right now. And also you can see on the right side of the screen, taking notice from DK Mountain from the likes of Mario Kart Double Dash, as well as Mario Kart Wii, and even especially noticeable with Maple Treeway from Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 7, they did at least manage to able to have themselves the actual returning barrel cannon segment, which basically allows you to able to take you to the you know, multitude of pathways and all that stuff. Yeah, you're gonna be hearing me sniffing a lot for the sake of this part, because of how the fact that I'm feeling a little bit miserable at this point today. But hopefully though, we'll get ourselves better during the future time. But for now, we'll just go ahead and race into the forms of, you know, in Yoshi Valley during time. So anyways though, I suppose another thing we'd like to say for this point, while we're trying to able to racing on this specific stuff, obviously the noticeable difference between the original version of Yoshi Valley than the likes of this version is that, of course, that it's really easy to able to actually win these races now, because if you could tell with the actual bottom right corner, it now actually tells you what position you're in. I did not meant to throw the actual green shell from the front, we meant to defend ourselves, god damn it. Well, funny story about this actually is the fact that whenever we manage to play multiplayer with Shadow and stuff like that, but if Shadow managed to lose the race and all that stuff, he accidentally just managed to use Chaos Blast at the actual GameCube controller, and then that way we pretty much almost gonna be stuck in with the forms of somewhat of a broken bumper buttons and all that stuff, but hopefully it might still work for that time, especially like ever since training forms about 3 days ago or something, when that happened. So, but anywho though, the final thing we'd like to explain about this specific stuff, and that was the fact that let's commit suicide from the start, because we don't feel like getting hit by a multitude of blue spiny shells all at once. So anyway though, when it comes to Pokemon Sword and Shield with the actual game itself, despite the fact that someone's playing Smash Ultimate recently, Yeah, because unfortunately, for the sake of time for Terry, as in the forms of the DLC fighter, unfortunately we have to wait for a certain amount of time. We were expecting if he'll be coming in during November time, but unfortunately it says coming soon instead. Which I was really hoping that he'll not get delayed or anything like that. But either way though, we'll have to wait and see what happens during the future time. But for now, we are basically done with the forms of the Leaf Cup. So what's the highlight is it going to be? I would assure to you it will be Wario Stadium because of we actually did that pretty good time on that particular track. Oh yeah, the final thing we'd like to point out is that you know Pokemon Sword and Shield will be almost about to be releasing. Sadly though, that much like the forms of how it does it in Splatoon 2, and even you know, Pokemon Let's Go series, and especially notable with Animal Crossing The New Horizons. Unfortunately though, that the actual cloud save data is not accessible in Pokemon Sword and Shield, sadly. I think it's pretty obvious because they actually didn't manage to have the, somewhat of a similar engine as the forms of Let's Go Duology series or something. I don't know, I haven't really looked upon that much of it though. So yeah, there's the actual Leaf Cup trophy right there, and as you can see on the back of it though, it does look pretty cool though, because it's almost more accurately though, it's like a silhouette of the actual Tanuki Mario from the back, alongside with the actual bigger golden tail attached to it, which that's a good reason why we did manage to select Tanuki Mario to begin with for the sake of this video. So yeah, I guess we'll end things off here, so join us tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Mario Kart 8 / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because now we are moving on to Lightning Cup, so see you guys then. Later fellas.